We love hip hop.
You do sit, and we're going to get to some history in a second, but you do sit with some controversial gentlemen, right?
Yes.
And one thing I'd like to see if we can get resolved as a Toronto man is the relationship that has been frayed between Elliot Wilson, aka West Coast Wilson, and Drizzy Drake.
I would love to see that as well. I would love to see that.
I don't know, man. Like, from when that post went out months ago and he was calling him a rat, I was like, what happened? That was such a beautiful relationship, like live interviews. There was so much moments, man. And
I told him, it's funny, the first time I ever talked to Elliot was on a red carpet when I was interviewing him, and I asked him about, I was like, it was him and B-Dot, and I was like, Elliot, like, you're kind of responsible for the Drake and Kendrick tension because of your Control interview. Like, did you know that moment was going to happen? And he kind of went through the moment and said, like, I knew that it was and this is my cat, Kit Cudi. He knew that it was energy in the air, and people were like wanting to ask. So when the crowd started saying Kendrick, he was like, okay, I have to ask about the Control verse. Now, I credit and blame Elliot as a joke, but also I'm kind of serious, because that interview where Drake kind of showed that he felt a way about Control and maybe got a little bit more sensitive than some of the rappers had expressed. I'm not saying that they weren't sensitive, because I think a lot of them were, but they didn't express that openly. And Drake was a person who did, which led to tuck a sensitive rapper back in his pajama clothes. That led to the shots back and forth on Nothing Was the Same. And then afterwards. So I was joking with Elliot. So he clearly played a very pivotal role in not only him and Drake's elevation, Drake's career, his elevation, his career, but in Kendrick and Drake's tension to some degree or another. So that, I feel like, is a legendary moment. Then we have the interview at Drake's house, which is huge, and that probably the best Drake interview we'll ever get, and probably the most honest Drake interview we'll ever get. Maybe he does one again where he really reflects, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. And
also the last hip hop interview, really with the culture. Like, yes, he had the Yachty interview, but that was still very lighthearted.
Yeah, and that's his boy. Like, and then we had the Bobby one, and so I think that's where some of their tension started, like the Bobby Altoff thing, where she was, I think he said something about, I don't know the exact quote, but it was something like critical of that interview and asking why Drake never sits, with the culture, to your point, which he hadn't since 2020 or 2019 when that dropped, end of New Year's 2020, I believe. And so that probably severed the relationship a little, but to my knowledge, they were cool after that. So I don't know. Like, people ask me, like, what I actually don't know. And we've spoken about it on air, and I don't know why he would have sent that emoji. Like, I don't know if he thought that maybe Elliot was posting too much about Kendrick on his feed during the battle, or maybe he felt like he was biased, or maybe like, because the thing that people like to point at is our show, but we didn't sit until after Not Like Us. And he sent that rat emoji right before Family Matters. So we didn't even have a planned show. Like, that's the other thing people need to understand. We had no plans of doing a show. Me and Elliot were going to work on some stuff together. There was no DJ Head until Sunday morning. And we had no plans of making this a show. It was supposed to be a one-off. And that idea didn't come until like 2 hours before Not Like Us came out. So I don't know what the issues are. Maybe it's irreparable at this point because of things that have been said or because of things that have been done. But I would love to see them together. I have Elliot's Scorpion jacket that he was wearing on episode 1. He handed it to me and said that I was better suited to wear it. So, I can give it back to Elliot the day that they meant things.
That's crazy. Hold on. Before we continue, man, that's how bad it's become. The Elliot's like, yo, I don't even want this jacket anymore. Like, that's memorabilia right there.
And it's a nice jacket. I wore it in Toronto, and like the thing is, I know how much that meant to him. So I know he actually was like, to me it felt like getting the rock chain, like it was a mentor passing down to a mentee. But I think it also was like hurtful. He's like, damn, like I can't wear this without thinking about what the
it's like passing
did.
On your like deceased grandparents' heirloom, bro. Like,
honestly,
they're not in my life anymore. you can have it, Jeremy. Like, whoa.
No, that's if I felt the weight. I might have to sage the jacket. I'm not gonna lie, but
Every time you're wearing that, you're wearing a story.
yes, and people are like, "Oh, where'd you get that from?" Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you about this one rat emoji.
next time people ask you that, tell them go to the We Love Hip Hop podcast and go check out the story that I told you.
There we go, and we'll see the full story.
Exactly.
I like
exactly.
that. We
Thanks
love
for
hip
watching.
hop.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out these other videos on the screen and make sure to like and subscribe.
We love hip hop.